First wash all the car, then wax. Wax.
But what do I have to wash all the car?
Remember, dear, no question.
Yeah, but
Right. Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film. We explore its themes, the history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone, again. My name is John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist, writer, producer, and host here in Los Angeles, California.
And today we're going to talk about a movie that is very special to me and also has a 30-plus year later TV series sequel coming out of it.
Yes.
And that is The Karate Kid, which is because we have Cobra Kai coming out on YouTube.
Yeah, what a random. It was just, when you proposed this, I was like super excited about it. Yeah, it probably doesn't fit into that idea of the great classic movies, but I will say that it is a film that still resonates. The fact that we're getting a TV series, as you said, 30 years later, that people try to redo it again with Will Smith's kid, like there is something about this story, no matter how many sequels come or how many reboots happen or a TV series or whatever, that still resonates with people. And the fact that they got William Zabka and Ralph Macchio to come back for the TV series, I couldn't be more excited. In fact, I ordered YouTube Red. So
I'm gonna order it too. I think they're gonna get a lot of stuff. This is the first thing that I've seen on YouTube Red where I went, oh.
Yeah.
Well, I have to get that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't think it was that hard to get Ralph Macchio and William. I mean, it's like you're not doing that much.
I guess so.
But I will say, even if this wasn't happening, I'm thrilled to be talking about The Karate Kid. If you go back way to the very beginnings of the Cine-Files and hear our episode on Enter the Dragon, what I said then was how important that movie was to me because that was what started my love of martial arts. And The Karate Kid, in a lot of ways, is what solidified it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm the only one, by the way. I bet dojos did a lot of good business after this movie came out.
Oh yeah, this is Top Gun for karate. This is like gets people to sign up and get into it and start fighting. I mean, I explored it after this movie because I was a kid that got beat up a lot in growing up through my years. So seeing a kid fight back and win in 1984, which is right when I'm 14, 13 years old, when I'm still getting beat up, it's like, it's so inspirational in that way, you know. And this movie is as important as it is to you, Steve. It is very important to me as well. It's something I saw in the theaters over and over and over again when it came out, and I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed the movie. And it still has a special place in my heart for a number of reasons. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, same thing. I saw it in the theater. Yep. I think I saw it multiple times in the theater. Yeah. And then it became in the rotation. It's one I watched over and over again for the next decade.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is I just watched it again with my son, and you know, that's special.
Yeah.
Watching it and I think I mentioned this for those of you listening to the previews. He resisted it. He didn't want to watch it. He was angry. He wanted to watch his shows. We forced him to watch it. There were some tears, and he was in, and he loved the movie. And that was, it just makes it super special for me.
He should get used to that in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're forced to watch something, and then you're like, oh, I enjoyed that.
I'm glad I did. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about pre-production. Sure. I don't have too much to go into. Screenplays by Robert Kamen, who did do martial arts, and it shows. Mm-hmm. He has a real understanding of karate and how kind of the ideas behind it. Okay. They bring in John G. Avildsen very early, who is the director of Rocky, and you cannot overestimate the connections between Rocky and this movie. Mm-hmm. They're genre-wise and tone-wise completely different. Yeah. And structurally, they're very similar. There's a lot of Rocky in here. And you know what? He's got an interesting film career. He's not one of our great directors, but he directed Save the Tiger, which is a really powerful movie with Jack Lemmon. He directed, which I didn't know, Neighbors with
John Belushi
and Dan Aykroyd. Yep. Not such a good movie. Rocky V.
Yes, he doesn't have a lot of, he has some misses on that resume.
And Lean on Me.
Yeah, which is I really enjoy.
I think
Morgan
it's a really
Freeman
good movie.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things I think that he's best on, and you definitely see it in Rocky, and you definitely see it here, is casting.
Yeah.
This guy knows how to cast people. With the Daniel part, he was looking for a kid that could be both wimpy and a wise ass at the same time.
Right.
And man, Ralph Macchio is just perfect for this. He had been in The Outsiders, and he was just I can't imagine anyone else in this part.
I think he's our generation's Peter Parker. I think he absolutely would have been Spider-Man.
Totally.
If we had this resonance or whatever, I'm sorry, this renaissance of comic book heroes, comic book superhero movies, I think Macchio would have absolutely, at this age, would have been in contention for Spider-Man. He's just so perfect in terms of personality.
Absolutely. And he's great in this movie. And of course, the most important piece of casting is Pat Morita, Noriyuki Pat Morita.
Yep.
I mean, there's no this movie doesn't exist.
Right.
What's interesting is you want to know who the studio wanted?
Toshiro Mifune.
Toshiro Mifune.
Yes.
That is a much scarier Mr. Miyagi.
Well, that's what they said. He didn't get the part because they didn't feel that he hit the warmth and the joy of that part that they wanted, which is ironic because look at Mifune in Seven Samurai. That is a passionate, crazy, doing crazy stuff. Why wouldn't he be able to access that in this situation? And maybe because he'd just gotten older and set in his ways. And if you watch that documentary, that great documentary that was on Netflix about him, you see as he's
a
getting
pretty intense dude.
Exactly. As he gets near the end of his life, he's a lot more intense.
Well, and no disrespect to Mr. Mifune. I mean, you and I are both huge fans, but no one else can play this part but Pat Morita.
I agree.
And so much so that I want to give a little history of him. It's not like this guy is an important actor, at the level of some of the other people I've given bios from, but he's pretty interesting. He's born in California in 1932. His parents are immigrants, and he was a super sick kid. He had spinal tuberculosis. He was in the hospital for about 9 years of his early life, including a lot of that time in a full body cast.
Oh.
So trapped in a hospital. In fact, they released him from the hospital and took him straight to the internment camp in Arizona where his parents were during World War II.
Yep.
Like right out of the hospital into that. And naturally, he took what sounds like a tremendous amount of suffering and became a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
And this guy is, and if you go and watch old video of him, you can go on YouTube and see Pat Morita stand-up comic. He played Vegas. He was one of the early members of the Groundlings in the early 70s. And I have to say his nickname, which involves a word that I don't think is somewhat offensive, but this is what he literally said this on the billboards when Pat Morita played someone. It said, Pat Morita, the hip nip.
Oh, wow.
That is his nickname.
Wow.
That is what he went as.
It could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
Yeah, hip nip's all right. Nippon is still something.
It's
right?
something, yeah. But it's still like, something that was used as a slur.
Yeah.
But he took that on. And of course, where I first saw Pat Morita is Happy Days.
Yes, Happy
because
Days.
he played Arnold.
And
he was really funny. And when they brought him in, he comes in to read for it, and he says this character just took over. Wow. He just felt something, and because if you listen to him talk, he sounds nothing like Mr. Miyagi.
No, he's very chill.
Yeah, totally American accent.
Yes,
his voice seems like one octave higher, but he found that voice, and what Alvinson says is it was 3 lines in, he's like, that's it.
Yeah,
and he gets cast. It's just perfect casting.
You know who else they wanted for that?
No,
Mako.
Of course they did, but
he was doing Conan the Destroyer. and of course he ends up playing it in little sidekicks. He ends up doing it later as a trainer for those kids in that film. But they had looked at Mako, but Mako was doing Conan the Destroyer. Unfortunately, he was doing Conan the Destroyer.
Well, it's unfortunate for him and for that franchise. But again,
it wouldn't work without Pat. Yeah. Just the great combination
of the warmth and the comedy. And Mako's great.
And the steel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to say one thing.
Yes.
They almost recast his mom.
Really?
It was going to be Valerie Harper.
She's so Valerie Harper-ish.
Weintraub wanted Valerie Harper.
Yeah.
And then Alvinson saw Valerie's audition and said no. They were going to recast 2 days before the start of the shoot.
Wow.
Insane.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So things come together how they come together. It's the interesting thing about film, man.
Well, and this is when you're directing a movie, you're going to make a bunch of choices. And a lot of times, you don't know if that was the right choice.
Yeah.
You just went, I have to choose. I'm choosing this. So we started in New Jersey. We're loading up the old station wagon. I remember station wagons.
Yes.
And the kid, everyone's waving you goodbye, and you're heading off to drive across the country. We have a fairly long, probably too long, montage of driving across the country. Most of this is shot without the main actors, so we don't really see them.
That's good.
Yeah. And we see, they go to this motel, they're in the desert, and then at one point we have to push the car to pop the clutch to get it started, which becomes something that's important later.
It's very cute.
And then after that, we arrive in California.
Daniel, wake up! Look off the starboard bow! Paradise at last!
And we really see for the first time Ralph Macchio and his mom, who's I don't have her name in front of me.
Yeah.
So we'll call her Mom. And she is wonderfully positive.
Yes. Always looking at the positive situations of what's happening to her, and a great accent.
Oh yeah,
I love that New Jersey accent of hers.
well, and I would put her at the level of irritatingly positive. Not in a bad way about the actress, but
Right.
just really like there's a thing sometimes you have to do as parents when things are kind of bad,
Yeah.
and your kid is upset, is you have to up your this is going to be great,
Right.
and that is totally what she's doing. Isn't this awesome? Isn't everything perfect?
Randy Heller.
Randy Heller,
Yes.
thank you very much.
So great she is.
And Daniel is having none of it.
No.
He is not happy.
Look at those palm trees. Damn. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, watch out for falling coconuts.
Wise guy. No more Newark winters.
I like winters, Ma.
And something I read, which is just so stunning to me, Ralph Macchio is 23
Yes.
when he makes this movie.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, of course, you always cast older,
Yeah,
but man, he
that's-
looks young.
Yeah, he does.
And we get to our just the classic Los Angeles, California apartment complex with everything is good and bad about those things. And she's building up. They're going to see this great pool. Of course, the pool is drained. We're heading inside. He karate kicks the door open and knocks some guy over who's being really nice.
Yep.
And what we hear, of course, is that the reason that we're here is that Mom apparently got some really good job.
Right.
That ends up not being, I don't know if it wasn't true or.
I think maybe she lost the job and she became a waitress and then became a waitress.
Yeah,
Right?
It's weird the way it
Yeah.
all happens. We're moving to the apartment. The faucet is leaking.
Yeah.
Go get the handyman. There's a handyman to fix the faucet. So he goes to find the maintenance guy, and there we see Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
He's got some chopsticks, and he's trying to catch flies.
Yep.
So did you ever in high school try to catch a fly with chopsticks?
No, and I never would try. I would be terrible at trying to catch a fly. I can barely catch it with my hand. That I used to do all the time, try to catch flies with my hand.
I tried with the chopsticks. It's really hard.
It's very difficult.
Very difficult thing to do. And this is a great mysterious introduction of the master, the sensei.
Yes.
You know, and it's so funny. There's so much of this that is just iconic. That is just, these are the cliches of the great, because we all know what the movie's about. So we know that's the teacher.
Right.
And he says, you know, come fix the faucet. And he goes, when will we be there? After. After when? After. And please forgive me. I'm going to do the voice sometimes
that's
because
fine.
you just, you know, sometimes you can't help it.
I do want to throw something in though, Steve.
Yeah.
Me and you are massive fans of martial arts movies, especially martial arts movie at this time. What is the hidden truth about the good martial arts movies is they always have a sense of humor about what's going on. They always have this really interesting kind of smirk or tongue-in-cheek, like occasional exchange that happens that lets you kind of undercut the situation, right? And you see this again here in this movie. It does have shades of this kind of martial arts blueprint that it goes through,
Oh, yeah.
but it has these moments with Miyagi where he is presented in a certain way that's cliche for the master stuff, but then he does little things that undercut this idea that he's some kind of big time master or whatever, which I think is brilliant. And you see occasion because the confident ones don't have to show that they're masters
Right.
all the time, right? They just know.
Well, I think, you know, there's a real connection between Mr. Miyagi and Yoda,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
which is the way we meet Yoda as this weird creature who's calling through Luke's stuff and sort of annoying. And then it's like, oh no, this is the great master.
Right.
It's the maintenance guy at the apartment that who's doing kind of weird things, who's sort of quirky. That's the master.
Bruce Lee was never like, an executive. He was always some like delivery, takeout Chinese guy or doing whatever.
Yeah, that's
like in
true.
all his movies, he's always a worker or something. Yeah, blue collar guy.
Yeah. And so one of the things that's really nice, this guy that Daniel met on the stairs, invites him out to go to a party on the beach.
Oh boy.
I think things are going to work out pretty well for Daniel. He's already made some nice friends. We're out on the beach.
I don't know. Daniel's got a negative energy, man. Through the whole movie, he's got this kind of negative energy in the situation because he's really not happy because he was set up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever traveled cross country, but like it's a whole different ballgame when you leave a place of comfort and go to another place where you don't know anybody, especially that formative age of his as a teenager, and you're having to make Jersey ain't LA.
No.
Like the people are completely different, in the way they approach things.
But he's doing okay on the beach.
Sure.
He's playing with the soccer ball. There's hanging out with some guys. There's some girls that we talked to. There's one girl in particular, Elizabeth Shue.
My greatest crush ever.
Ever?
I have loved this woman since this movie and beyond. Back to the Future when she came in to replace Jennifer, Cocktail, I even watched CSI for the first time ever a couple of seasons because she was on it. And I just have a tremendous crush on Elizabeth Shue, and I love the fact that she won that Oscar for Leaving, or that she was nominated, I think, for Leaving Las Vegas. So I just have a... And this is my favorite Elizabeth Shue. 80s Elizabeth Shue is my favorite Elizabeth Shue.
I'm 100%. This is my first movie crush too. So 100% with you.
Yeah.
I rewatched Adventures of Babysitting recently.
Oh yeah, she's great in that. Yeah.
The movie's odd.
Yeah.
but
the Thor stuff is good though.
But she is adorable and cute and funny and just perfect in every way in this movie.
Yeah.
And she seems kind of interested in him. It's later on where it like got a bonfire. By the way, it does show totally the world has changed so much. Mom and this kid arrive from another state.
Yep.
And she just says, "Go ahead." And now he's just out on the beach at night.
At night.
They literally got here a few hours ago. It's crazy.
He's a high school kid.
He's 15, yeah. But we're having a good time, and the guys are kind of encouraging him to go talk to her, and he does go talk to her. We do a little juggling of the soccer ball, which seems to be one of Ralph Macchio's key skills. He probably said it at the bottom of his actor resume.
Probably.
Soccer ball juggling. But unfortunately, there are these guys up the hill, got some motorcycles, and there is Johnny.
Yeah.
William Zabka.
Good looking dude, that Johnny.
He is, and he is not pleased.
No.
He sees Daniel talking to Allie. We find out that her name is Allie.
Right.
And he wants to go down and talk, so they heads down to talk to her. And there's this big boombox, the classic 80s boombox.
Yeah.
And he whips it out of her hand, throws it on the ground. Johnny, kind of a dick.
He's kind of a dick. He's a very angry dick. LaRusso tries to be chivalrous and pick up the radio, the boombox, and Johnny gets mad that he interfered and then throws him down. Then, he just completely uses all his karate moves on him while they're holding back Elizabeth's shoe. And then eventually, just when you think Daniel's probably done for, he lands a nice right cross onto Johnny's face.
It is a clear sucker punch.
Yes, it is a sucker punch.
Yeah, I mean, now the guy has already suckered him already.
Right.
So it's not wrong that he does it, but there's this sort of moment, hey, you had enough? And he's like, yeah, and then boom, he jumps up, punches him in the face, and now William Zabka does the full karate moves on him. Something we should say.
Yes, please, Steve. I was going to ask you, but go ahead. Yes.
So none of the leads in this movie had ever done martial arts before. Ever.
Not a shock.
And it's not particularly good.
Right.
Like, I would say that probably Zabka is the best of them.
He's the best around. Yeah.
No, it's not good. Well, and here's the thing about this movie that I was thinking about is that this is unlike any other martial art movie there is, in the sense that all other martial arts movies are A, really about doing martial arts.
Yes.
And B, action films.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
This is not an action film.
No.
There is action in it.
It's underdogs. This is a sports movie.
It's much more of a sports movie and a character study.
Yes.
And a coming of age film. But like, we're not going to, anyone who wants to see some great martial arts, I guess this is a crazy thing I'll say, but you will see far better martial arts in the Karate Kid movie with Jaden Smith than you will in this.
Now, when we get to the tournament, does your tune change a little bit through some of the participants?
Oh, there's one dude that is good.
Yeah, he is very good.
And it's so obvious that he's in a completely different league from everybody else.
You're like, how did he lose exactly?
Why did he lose? Yeah, that guy's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
anyway.
But it's fine. They did a perfectly fine job.
And most of the public probably couldn't tell.
Yeah. Well, particularly in 1984.
That's what I'm saying.
I think the standard of fight scenes in movies, like you watch Marvel movies and you see all sorts of great martial arts happening.
Yeah.
But Johnny leaves. They, blast some sand in Daniel's face. Allie goes to talk to him.
Are you okay?
Oh, just leave me alone.
I'll help you.
No, just leave me alone. I'm okay. Just leave me alone.
Come on now, let's go. Come on, it's better if you leave him alone.
He's really beat up, man. He's
He is.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right? He's embarrassed.
But one of the worst things is the guys that had befriended him say, "Why'd you bring this loser?" or something like that.
As if they would do a better job.
Like what?
Yeah.
The assholes clearly showed up.
California,
The guy did the. Is that what it is?
That's L.A., man.
Yeah, because I'm in Northern California.
Yeah, that's right.
Really. Yeah, I don't
You're more chill, man.
Yeah, I'm much more chill than
There's
that.
more judgment down in Southern California.
Yeah. And Danny's left alone in the sand.
Yeah.
We're having breakfast. We got some nice Minute Maid that apparently was the main product placement, so they had to say the name Minute Maid. Daniel's wearing some chill, cool sunglasses.
Yep.
We're talking about school. He's like, I just got to go. I don't need this food. I'm just going to get out of here. Take off the glasses. Take off the glasses. Finally, he takes off the glasses.
She flips out.
She does.
Yes.
Without question. But again, we go to how the world's changed.
Yeah.
Is that we shouldn't do anything.
No.
Today, there would be particularly as we get into the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Parents and grown-ups would be involved.
There'd be lawyers involved.
Yeah, but not in this case.
No. We handled our business back in the 80s, Steve.
I know. Well, this is something I think we'll talk about as we go along with this film.
Yeah.
He jumps on his bike, rides off to school.
To Bananarama. I think he rides off to
Is
school.
that what it is?
Cruel Summer, yeah, which
Yes.
was not on the soundtrack, but was introduced in this movie for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it became a hit, but they didn't put it on the soundtrack, and I'm not sure why.
So you had this soundtrack?
I did have the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Nice.
Bill Conti. How could I not have the soundtrack?
Well, and by the way, again, another Rocky connection, and it's a great score.
Yes, it is a great score, and the Zamfir flutes are incredible.
Yeah.
This is what separates the movie to me. Yep.
Yeah. We're in soccer practice. We see some of the guys from before.
Yeah.
And then there's Allie again. She is so nice.
And very cute.
And she thanks him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really cute little flirting, a lot of which is improvised. The Allie with an I and Daniel with an L. That's all stuff that the actors came up with.
That's great.
And we see the kind of charming, funny Daniel LaRusso character, who seems to be, probably because he's from New Jersey, operating at a totally different speed from everybody in California.
Yeah.
His whole sense of humor and style is different. Soccer starts and we see Johnny sort of gesturing with kind of his buddies. And one of those guys takes Daniel out.
That the one with the bleached blonde hair?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's the crazy one.
He's a jerk.
And Daniel just loses it on him and punches him in the face.
Yep.
Immediately gets kicked off the soccer team. And Daniel's like, this school sucks. So I think that Daniel might have overreacted a little bit in that moment.
Well, maybe he doesn't like being bullied.
No. Well, and this is a movie about being bullied.
It's fight or flight sometimes in those situations.
Well, and, like, what is this movie going to say? Is that he has to earn respect in order for them to leave him alone. And that's kind of what he tried to do at this moment.
Yeah.
And of course, Sally watches him walk away, feels a little bad for him.
Yeah.
We're back home. Let's practice some karate out of a book. I had some of these books. In fact, if we went over on that bookshelf right over there, there's a couple of them, a couple of those sort of old karate books from the 70s and 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Of just like, here is an upward block, here is an inside block. And he's doing his front kicks, not doing them terribly well.
Yeah. And
who should walk in? Mr. Miyagi to fix the sink. And he kind of sees he's learning this karate from the book, and he asks what happened to his eye.
Yeah. And
Daniel says, "Oh, I fell off my bike." And Miyagi says,
"Lucky no hurt the hand."
And there's this great moment where it's like Miyagi knows he's lying.
Yeah.
Daniel knows Miyagi knows he's lying.
Right.
That's a great little hints of who this guy's going to be.
And also their connection. You get the first tissues of their connection forming.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Because he doesn't have a father figure. He doesn't have a father figure.
Yeah.
Right?
And Miyagi doesn't have a son.
Right.
This is going to be a really remarkable relationship we're going to get to. Back at school, we're in the cafeteria again. Here's Allie again. She is clearly into Daniel.
Yep.
I mean, she is, hey, how you doing? And he's a little resistant, I got it. And he does this funny
kick last time. Yeah, no, I would be too. Twice.
And he's doing this funny talking to himself thing.
Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. I know.
What are you doing?
Oh, it's just this little voice. It's telling me I gotta be some kind of a yo-yo to be talking to you right now.
But he does buy her lunch. Very suave.
Yes.
And she says the whole thing with Johnny was over. This was her boyfriend. It's over. He's kind of how over? Over weeks? How many weeks? We don't quite get an answer.
Nope. Well, in high school, it was always over fast and moving on fast.
Yeah.
It wasn't like when you get older where you have to take time to get it processed. You just kind of move on to the next thing.
Yeah. But Daniel has a plan on what to do about Johnny, which is let's go take some karate lessons.
Yeah.
Let's go visit the Cobra Kai dojo.
Fear does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, Sensei! Pain does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, Sensei! Defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, Sensei!
Oh, man.
So the first martial arts I took when I was 9, and I took judo for a few years.
Oh, wow.
And then, but it was when I was 18 that I finally went to a real dojo for the first time. And I'm not going to say my dojo was the Cobra Kai.
Ooh.
It was not. But it was in that general area.
So
it was very macho.
Okay.
And there was a lot. The reason I left was the techniques were named like the dance of death, you know, and there was a lot of talk of if someone faces you, you have the right to do whatever is necessary to end the fight. And they even at one point said, if you even think someone is about to attack you, you have the right to just go wipe them out. And I remember going to the sensei one day and saying, I had been there a couple of years, 2-3 years, I don't know, probably 2 years. And I said, I'm not really comfortable with the philosophy, you know, and he said, well, we don't have a philosophy. And I was like, no, you do. And I left. That was when I left the dojo.
Oh, wow. So you had an exchange with him and then he didn't.
Well, in his mind, this was just the truth.
Right.
You know, and this is one of the interesting things about martial arts for me, which is why I ended up in Aikido, which is this very gentle martial art, is philosophy and martial art are linked.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they don't think that.
Right.
They're not, even though they have, anytime you're thinking about how you would apply violence to someone, you have a philosophy, but they're not necessarily thinking about it.
Right.
You know, they're thinking about how can I wipe somebody out? How can I just, you know, win the fight? And we walk into Cobra Kai, and this is a specific kind of place.
Yeah, it is.
Right away, we hear,
Strike first, strike hard, no mercy, sir! I can't hear you! Strike first, strike hard, no mercy, sir!
It's very military.
oh, yeah.
This is stuff we used to say in the military when I was in basic training. You train at 4 a.m, 5 a.m. with your M16 and the bayonet attached, and you're like, what makes the grass grow? Blood drill, sergeant, blood. What makes the grass grow? Blood drill, sergeant, blood. Yeah, over and over again. And while you're doing moves, striking moves, defensive moves, butt to the face moves, bayonet to the stomach, jab moves, and all that. And so to me, I always remembered feeling like this guy was in Vietnam. Like it just felt that way, right?
Clearly.
It's very
military.
Right. It's very clear. And I think a lot of people got into martial arts, and this is what you talk about with that dojo you were at. Some people misunderstood what the point of martial arts was, and they use it as an extension of their machismo and their desire to be the man in the room and kick ass and be violent, because to them, in their limited thinking and limited intelligence, that equates to manhood. Rather than more what is the true spirit of martial arts is to not use it unless you need to use it. It's not to learn. You don't learn it so that you can use it. You learn it so that you don't have to use it. And that's the interesting point of martial arts, at least the studies that I've seen.
Well, it's certainly what I believe about martial arts. I sort of like going, is that the true spirit of martial arts? Is that there are a lot of martial arts out there.
Sure.
And there are some that are super aggressive and violent, and some that are very gentle, some that are very beautiful and artistic. And so what exactly is the right one? I'm not really prepared to say. What I will say, though, is that martial arts came to America in a lot of different ways, and one of the main ones is through the military.
Yeah.
First of all, to military guys who were stationed in Japan and Vietnam and Korea, learned those martial arts there, and then they got codified when people like you went through basic training, and they had these guys who are experts in martial arts, and clearly that's where Sensei Kreese got his martial arts. And this is Martin Kove.
Hey, Martin Kove.
And he is right on the edge of too far throughout the whole thing. He is pure evil.
He's still alive, by the way.
Yeah.
And he better show up in this Cobra Kai TV show in some way or shape or form.
So.
He has to.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's in a nursing home.
Yeah.
He better show up.
And this is the Bad Dojo.
Yes.
And as we're starting to train, and Daniel comes in and is watching them practice, and there's this great moment where he says, Mr. Lawrence, warm them up, and they bow, and as the students bow, whose face is revealed but Johnny's.
Yeah.
That is a great little filmic moment. And Daniel heads out.
Yep.
One thing about them, by the way, is so the guy who trained them all, I think his name is Pat Johnson, and he's a well-known martial artist, and had even been in some Chinese films, and what he did, which was really smart, is he trained all of the people in different ways. So he trained Martin Kove separately from anybody else because he didn't want any of the Cobra Kai students to ever see him as anything but sensei.
Yeah.
So he didn't want them to see him as a beginner. So he didn't let them train together. The Cobra Kai guys, he trained like full military. Lots of yelling, lots of push-ups, lots of no laughter, all really serious and aggressive. And he trained Miyagi and Ralph Macchio together, and it was lots of fun, and they were just in a different place.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very smart. So no, this dojo is no good. So Daniel
To say the
leaves,
least.
and he goes and meets Mom in the restaurant. And this we've kind of hinted at this before. This is a weird scene.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wait, is she a waitress?
Yeah.
I thought she had some job.
I think she's doing the books too, right? A little bit. She does both. I think for like an accounting type thing. Yeah.
Well, and she's again super This is great. This is so much better than the other job. And I'll tell you what this makes me think about. And I don't know at all, but why'd they move out here?
Yeah.
I think they moved, and we don't know really what happened to Dad.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just speculation, but I think she was fleeing something more than she was going to something.
Wow.
I'm not saying she was fleeing violence or anything like that,
Right.
but I think she wanted to start her life over. And she has been, because we get in this moment later where Daniel's like going, you didn't ask me about moving out here.
Well, this is the change that's happening, right? Alice doesn't live here anymore. It's 1973.
Right.
This is this idea of women now taking control, coming out of the marches and the feminist movements that were happening in the 70s, burning bras, the ERA, all of that was happening through the 70s. You know, it wasn't just civil rights. Women were as well were becoming powerful forces, not only in the home, but financially as well. They were starting to be in the part of the workforce and all this, and they were starting to be political power as well. So why wouldn't they start to almost in a sense manifest destiny with their lives and move to a place as far away as possible from all these memories? And maybe there's a divorce here. Maybe her father was
something like that.
Or maybe his father died and she has these memories and she just wants to go someplace sunny, happy, full of palm trees and whatever.
Where she can reinvent herself in some way.
Exactly.
But she also has to keep selling her grumpy son.
Yes.
On the fact that she's done this thing.
Yeah. She moved to a place that matches her disposition.
Yeah. And she's still, yes, exactly. And she's still trying to cheer him up.
She is.
You gotta give it a try. Hey, I know it's hard, but we're not quitters, are we?
Guess not.
And the girl situation?
It's okay.
Just okay. To me, it looks like the whole world turned blonde. You got your eye on anybody? Oh, cute.
No, not cute. She's beyond cute.
But she's blonde, though, right?
Yeah, she's got blonde hair.
She's a great mom, Steve.
I agree.
Overwhelmed positively, but she's a great mom.
I agree.
Yeah.
You get no argument from me. I totally agree. And there's a weird moment, by the way, at the end of the thing where she goes away to wait tables, and he's now just kind of talking to himself.
I don't know. I think she's beautiful. I'd say she's beautiful. I think she's beautiful. I think she's something else, right? She's hot. Definitely hot.
Ralph Macchio's a charming kid.
Yeah.
His 23-year-old playing a 15-year-old.
He's a little odd, but he's charming.
He's odd but charming.
Yes.
Well, but again, it's like this is the Rocky thing.
Yeah.
Rocky is an odd but charming character.
Right.
And so is Daniel LaRusso.
That's a good point. And they're both kind of loners.
Yeah.
There are people in their lives, but they're kind of loners.
And they're both really nice and funny, and they're both kind of in their own speed that doesn't quite fit in with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, and he goes to ride his bike home, and some motorcycles show up, and they drive him off the road.
Yep.
Here's the thing. This is assault.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, they could have killed him.
Yeah, I know.
And Mom drives home, and she sees him throwing his bike into the dumpster.
So
and he's
angry.
freaking out.
Daniel! What's the matter?
Nothing.
Why did you throw your bike away?
Because I felt like it,
Please,
Ma.
look at me when I'm talking to you. Oh, my God.
Mom.
Oh, my God. Would you tell me what's going on here and don't tell me about another bike accident?
What do you want to hear, Ma?
I want to hear the truth.
No, you don't want to hear the truth. All you want to hear is how great it is out here. Well, maybe great for you, but it sucks for me. I hate this place. I hate it. I just want to go home. Why can't we just go back home?
And again, I go, in today's world,
Yeah.
she's at the police,
Sure.
she's at the principal's, she is parents would come in to solve this problem. At no time do any adults come in to try to solve this problem?
We didn't do that back then. I got beat up all the time. My mom never went to the high school or to the middle school or to the high school to speak to the principal about me getting beat up. So that's why this film resonates for me, Steve, because I was going through what he was going through.
Right.
I know that moment when he's like, no, leave me alone. When he's yelling at his mom, when he's throwing the bike. I have had that experience with my own parents when they were trying to get me to, like ignore it or let it go or don't do anything that makes anybody angry if you're getting beat up. And it wasn't until you embrace your desire to fight back, right? With him, it was martial arts. For me, it was lifting weights. Those books you had books of martial arts. Yeah. I had the Schwarzenegger book.
Yeah, I know you.
We've talked about it. And so that's the thing. And so for me, this film carries so much resonance because I know everything he's going through, every stage he's going through feels very, and my mom is this way too. My mom is one of the sweetest, most positive people in the world. She loves me to death and she always just encourages me and tries to look on the positive side of life. And I'm kind of grumpy like Macchio sometimes. Right. And so, or LaRusso. And so to me, there's so much about this film that connects with me. It's fantastic. And that scene is I'm sure many people listening to us have had that moment when they were bullied in middle school or in high school and had to have that conversation with their parents about it.
Yeah. And he is
and in the 80s you didn't
out.
do that. You just didn't do that.
Well, and this is the thing. I'm trying to think of how to put this exactly the right way. Is that in the last decade, there has been an awareness put on the idea of bullying and the destructive nature of it. And it's been so good. There was the It Gets Better movement.
Yes.
That was so profound of saying, I experienced these things. And there were moments, so many people who were in situations like Daniel LaRusso's who were contemplating suicide because they didn't see any hope, and having so many people in the world say, hey, I experienced this too, and it gets better. That was amazing. And so I don't want to take a single step back in any way. But now I have to say this which feels really weird, which is that the journey that Daniel LaRusso takes, because the adults don't step in, is that he grows as a human in all these ways that can't happen when society comes in to solve the problems for the kid. And I don't know what to do with that, because I don't want to take a step back.
Well, what you say is that's the exception to the rule, which is why they make a movie about it.
Right.
But there's about 10,000 other cases where that doesn't happen.
That's a great way to put it.
And that kid grows up to be an angry kid who hurts other people, who doesn't deal with his issues, doesn't go to therapy, doesn't figure things out, maybe becomes a wife beater or a child abuser from his own children, beats his own children because he hasn't come to terms with his own anger at feeling helpless and hopeless in the world and beat up by the world.
Well, you know what it is?
Or becomes a shut-in.
Or afraid, or all these things. There's the quote from Nietzsche, which is very famous, one of his most famous, which is whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that is so profoundly not true. Is that there are so many things, whether it's PTSD or just getting in a horrible car accident and not being able to walk after, those things didn't necessarily make you. Some things don't make you stronger.
Yeah.
Now, but on the other hand, experiences and dealing with adversity and learning to overcome adversity does make you stronger. Yes. And so I think what I want, like my way to thread the needle of these things is saying, as a parent myself, is that we should learn to deal with negative experiences on our own.
Yes.
We should learn some grit and to overcome adversity. And also there are times where that adversity is too big and it's not going to make you stronger. And we need to care and comfort and protect people in these situations.
That's why I don't use hand sanitizer.
That is exactly why I don't use hand sanitizer.
That's right, because I'm strong. I'm gonna deal with the germs.
Yeah, I am 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
that's a whole other conversation, but I 100% agree.
That's me dealing with the grit. There we go.
And you know what? Daniel, at this moment, he wants to deal with it himself too. He wants to take karate classes.
I gotta take karate, that's it.
You took karate.
No, not at the Y, at a good school.
Fighting doesn't solve anything.
Oh, well, neither does palm trees, Ma.
Which is exactly a great point you were bringing up earlier, Steve. Why is she here?
Yeah.
Right.
And she takes it, and he says, you didn't ask me. And she takes it in and she goes, you're right.
She's a good mom.
This is where she's a good mom.
Yeah.
No question about it. And she asks he's thrown the bike in the dumpster. And she says, what about the bike? And he says, I'm safe for taking the bus. And they walk back up to the apartment. And as they walk away, who do we see? Mr. Miyagi.
Yep.
This is an important moment in the film.
Do we get the score there, the Zamfir at that moment? I think we get.
I bet we do.
I think it's the first time
we
hear
do.
it.
Yeah.
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 We're back at school. He sees Allie, does the cute little shoulder tap on one side and goes to the other side. And she sees, what happened to him. And again, he's making the jokes.
Yeah.
Ooh, what happened to your forehead?
Oh, it was terrible. It's this gigantic runaway zit.
That's gross.
And there's a funny moment where he says, I had a bike, bike crash or whatever. And they're asking, what kind of bike do you have? And of course, they think he's talking about a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And this is one of the key other elements of this film that is really starting to emerge now, which is there is a strong class structure here. There are the rich kids and there are the poor kids.
Yep.
And Allie is one of the rich kids.
Yes, she is.
And Daniel is not. And then, of course, they're talking about, hey, let's go to the arcade or something. But then who do we see but Johnny? And Daniel hightails it out of there. And she's even like, hey, we got to deal with this thing. And she's like, he goes, you deal with it your way. I'll deal with it my way.
Right.
And by the way, I'm on his side at this moment.
Of course.
Because he can't deal with that.
And it's easier for her to deal with it because he is from her class. Yeah. And she has all the power in that situation over, as opposed to Daniel, who doesn't have roots in the community,
right?
Doesn't have family, that kind of thing. He's a transplant.
Well, and I don't think he knows yet fully the nature of the class thing, which
No.
he will. Yeah, but he will soon.
Yeah, but I mean, her reaction comes from.
Agreed. Yes, totally. You're totally right. Yeah. We're back home, and there at the top of the steps is a beautiful, pristine, perfect bike.
Yep.
Mr. Miyagi's fixed it. And he knows it's Miyagi. That's what I find interesting, because he goes right to his little workshop area, and there is Mr. Miyagi working on the bonsai tree.
I love this scene.
It is a great scene. Miyagi invites him inside and says he trains the trees, and then he goes, here, you do it.
No, I don't know how to do this stuff.
No, sit down.
No, I may mess it up. I don't want to mess it up or something.
Close eye. Trust. Concentrate. Think only tree. Make a perfect picture down to last pine needle. Wipe your mind clean, everything but tree.
And then he hands him the clippers and he walks away. And Daniel's question is, well, how do I know if my picture is the right one?
If come from inside you, always right on.
This is a great moment. And this is a great teaching moment. And what we see from Daniel right from this moment is his receptiveness to this old man has asked him to do this thing. He's like, okay, I will do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There's something I'll say. There are a lot of masters in film, the great teacher of one kind or another. Whether it's Yoda or Mickey and Rocky, or even like Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society, or, there's these great teachers. Mr. Miyagi might be my favorite.
Wow.
He's so wise and loving and funny and human and has these emotions to him. Like, I love Mr. Miyagi.
And he speaks to your version of martial arts.
Totally.
Right? And so all of that resonates with you organically. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's this movie is, I think, so influential for how I came to look at what martial arts are. And martial arts because I was bullied a little bit in school.
Yeah.
Like I was thrown in the garbage can. I had my, comic books torn up in front of me. I was called names, mostly like fat names, stuff like that. And that really hurt. But I never had I have to learn to fight these guys. That was never in my brain. I loved martial arts because I loved martial arts.
Right.
And so it was never about fighting for me, although I loved to spar at certain times in my life. But it was never about that. It was always about what Mr. Miyagi says about balance, learning how not to fight.
Yeah.
That was what it was always about for me.
Yeah.
And he works on the tree, and then mom comes in and kind of says, thank you. And he offers her a tree and she's ready to pay him. He's like, no, my pleasure.
I think is when she suspects that Daniel is missing a father figure.
Yeah.
I think she knows it instinctively.
She's a perceptive person. I totally agree. Back at school, this time Daniel avoids Allie.
Yeah.
And he's very aware of Johnny. I think this is sort of his weakest moment on some levels. And now it's Halloween. And Daniel comes to visit Miyagi, who now is calling him Daniel-san. And apparently Mr. Miyagi knows about the school dance schedule, because he asks, oh, you're not going to the dance? And
well, I'm sure there are other kids who live in the complex.
yeah, probably. And he thinks he should go to the dance. He's alone too much. And Daniel kind of goes, well, I'd only go if I go as the Invisible Man. And I love that behind him on the wall is the stuff to make the shower costume, which we're going to see in a moment.
Yeah.
And we end up at the Halloween dance, and he goes into the dance in a shower curtain.
Which is hilarious.
It's a great, great costume.
Yep. He's essentially a walking bath.
Yeah.
Or shower, I guess.
And somehow Allie recognizes him. There's Daniel. And she's dressed sort of Princess Leia-ish.
Yeah. With a wand for some reason.
Yeah, it's not quite a Princess Leia, but it's in the vicinity.
Sure.
And she gets into the shower with him.
Just really cute moments.
It is, and kind of sexy.
Yes.
There's something about, even though it's a fake shower,
yeah,
but this woman kind of comes into the shower curtains alone with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
You can kind of be alone in a room full of people.
Hey, you've come to the right place, stranger.
Yeah, I never danced in a shower before.
Hey, a friend of mine made this for me.
That's funny.
Isn't it great?
So, where have you been hiding?
Well, I haven't been hiding.
No, I haven't seen you around.
Have you been looking?
Sorta.
Sorta.
And they have a nice little talk and a nice little hug, and it's kind of romantic. And we hear now the subject of Johnny comes up, and Allie's kind of like, man, I wish someone would give him his medicine someday.
It's just that he thinks he can do whatever he wants to people.
Who?
Johnny. Oh, I'd love to see him get a dose of his own medicine.
Well, you know, what goes around comes around.
I'd love to be there when it does.
Yeah, me too.
And then some dude in a chicken suit is throwing eggs at people, and it gets Daniel, and now he's got to go off to the bathroom. And as he goes into the bathroom in his portable shower stall, who does he see there but a bunch of guys in skeletons?
Yeah.
And this is the Cobra Kai guys.
Yep.
And Johnny's in the toilet, and he is all alone. And he's thinking about what Allie said about wishing he would get his medicine.
Wishing it would come around.
Wishing it would come around. And fortunately, there seems to be a hose all hooked up there. And it's so funny watching this because you're like, I'm sure in 1984, I'm going, this is a terrible mistake.
This is a horrible mistake.
Horrible plan.
What are you thinking? But this speaks to the East Coast mentality, though, in my mind. I know this, right? I know this thing, what he's doing.
Right.
Because you can't leave well enough alone when you're still upset about a situation. And this is his way of kind of fighting back against them. And he thinks he can get away with it. And it's also a way a little bit of reclaiming, like he's still a young kid, right? So he's not aware of a lot of the reasons for why he's doing what he's doing. But this is a little way of reclaiming his manhood in the situation, for lack of a better term, to fight back a little bit in his way.
It's absolutely what it is. And one thing when you say about Daniel LaRusso, he's not a coward.
He's a gutsy kid.
He has got, balls.
Yep.
I mean, he is like, this is a ballsy move.
Yep.
And there's a great shot from below where we see Johnny in the foreground lighting a joint.
Yep.
And he comes up above and he puts the hose through like some pipes and aims it down, turns it on.
Yeah!
And then, man, out comes Johnny and the skeletons are chasing the shower kid. And this is the thing. It's instantly obvious who this is.
Yes.
Like he did not think through this plan.
No.
Runs by Allie and says, "Oh, that thing is coming around. It's coming around."
She trips the skeletons.
She trips the skeleton.
Yeah, that's her way of fighting back because she knows they won't hit her.
He causes a car accident while running away.
What? I know, right?
Apparently, we're not going to have consequences for that.
Jumps on the hood.
And Daniel jumps a fence. The skeletons are running after them. It's really a nice shot in the dark as he's running across a field towards the apartment. He gets to the fence next to the apartment. He is just climbing over that fence, and they catch him.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave well enough alone. Cut your little twerp. No, you had to push it. Well, now you're gonna pay.
And they proceed to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this fight scene, Steve, is we get one guy who doesn't want to do it.
Hey, leave him alone, man. He's had enough. Shut up, Bobby.
And this guy's, ironically, his name is Bobby Brown. And allegedly one of the most violent people we've had as singer-wise. But like, he tries to get them.
That's a strange competition, by the way. Most violent singers. Like, in this corner, we have Ike Turner.
Ike Turner
over here.
A lesser
Bobby
degree,
Brown.
Bobby Brown. But no, his name is Bobby Brown in the movie, which is great. And he tells them to stop. He says he's had enough. He's had enough. And this will come into play later on down the road. It's kind of brilliant to lay the groundwork a little bit here for what he's going to do in the tournament later. And so he tells them to stop. And they ignore him.
Well, they don't just ignore him, but they quote Sensei.
Yes.
Mercy is for the weak.
Mercy is for the weak.
And this is the thing, is that this movie is not a battle between good guys who want one thing and bad guys who want to do other things.
Right.
This is a battle between ideals, between philosophies of these two dojos, essentially. And this one says mercy is for the weak.
Yeah.
And this is where I also go, like, what is Johnny intending to do? Is he going to kill him?
Yeah. No, I think he's gonna.
Or he's gonna beat the living shit out of him.
Beat the living shit out of him. I think he's gonna beat him senseless. Yeah. I really do. I don't think he's gonna kill him, but I sure as hell think he's gonna knock him out.
This is really scary.
Yeah. And this happened back then. I want to make people understand.
Well, and still,
I'm sure, but in the 80s, it happened. I had friends who were beat up, knocked out at times by bullies and things like that. Man, I almost got knocked out. You know, those things are the worst because these are older kids who are beating you up most of the time.
Right.
And so they have more, they're physically stronger. They're just better at it. And there's only so much you can do. And so when you see that situation, Daniel is done for until, of course.
Yeah. And then we have this moment, we're up against the fence and the angle is kind of a low angle, and there we see Miyagi climbing up that fence.
Yeah.
Johnny comes in to launch his big jumping kick, which are mostly fairly silly to do. And down comes Pat Morita, and he wipes him out.
By the way, this is a grown man beating up high school kids. You want to talk about possibly going to lawyers and police?
Well, this is the thing too. And by the way, and it's funny too, because if you ever see the Jackie Chan, Jaden Smith one, it's even worse because those are like little kids. That Jackie Chan, it's very uncomfortable.
Oh, geez,
I mean, this one, it's like those are older,
right?
You know, like I don't think that what Miyagi does is wrong, but there should have been some consequences.
Right. I don't think what he's doing wrong either. He's obviously saving Daniel.
Yeah. And I would say this fight scene is okay. It's mostly not Pat Morita, of course. And the guy that doubles Pat Morita is a guy named Fumio Demura. And he is a fairly famous karate guy.
Oh, wow.
There's a documentary about him that's called The Real Mr Miyagi.
Okay.
I'm not going to say go watch this documentary. I think it's a little bit thin, but he is one of those guys that brought the martial arts to the United States.
Oh, wow.
You know, and he had did all these demos, and he those books we were talking about before, he wrote a whole bunch of them on karate, and he's one of those early sort of evangels of karate. You know, he was preaching it, and he's the guy who doubles Pat Morita.
Wow.
There's this last moment where Daniel looks up through sort of Vaseline-coated lens and sees Mr. Miyagi standing over the guys in his kind of karate-ish pose. And then we cut to Daniel kind of waking up and being healed by Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
This is a really great scene.
How come you didn't tell me?
Tell you what?
That you do karate.
You never ask.
Where'd you learn it from?
Father?
I thought he was a fisherman.
In Okinawa, all Miyagi know two things: fish and karate.
And by the way, this whole scene is one shot. Which is really it's not like a spectacular tracking shot or anything, but they had talked about doing coverage and getting close-ups and all this stuff. And Alvinson did 3 takes of it and got to the end and went, we got it.
Yeah.
And that's a real sign of they'd done a lot of rehearsal. These actors were really strong, and there is a connection between Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita that is just really works. Yep. This is a great pair, and talks about the origin in Okinawa that, you know, fisherman gets lost, ends up in China, brings back karate, and that's where Miyagi family karate comes from. And to some degree, this is true that that there's an origin of martial arts starting in India with yogis coming up to China and then meeting the guys who become the Shaolin Temple, and that's where Kung Fu sort of starts, and all these styles of Kung Fu around China, and then some of that making it to Japan, and that's, you know, and of course there's Japanese traditional martial arts before this, and but that's where this karate comes from. And you could see Daniel's kind of going,
Hey, you ever taught anyone?
No.
Well, would you?
Depend.
On what?
Reason.
How's revenge?
Daniel-san, you look revenge that way. Start by digging to grave.
Well, at least I have company, right?
Fighting always last answer to problem.
Oh, no offense, Mr. Miyagi, but I don't think you understand my problem.
Miyagi understand problem perfect.
And he understands where this problem is coming from, is they're students and the problem is coming from their teacher.
Right.
And so you should go talk to the teacher. And Daniel's like, really? You want me to do that? And he's like, yes, that is what you should go do. And Daniel says, well, if I show up there, I'm going to get killed. And Miyagi's response is,
get killed anyway.
Right. It's a great comeback.
yeah. And then he asks him to come.
And this is the moment where Miyagi has to decide. Saving him is a different situation. That's a humanitarian thing. Taking an active choosing to become an active participant in this situation. This is the moment.
I agree.
Right?
Well, and I think this brings up a really important question, which is, who is Miyagi?
Yeah.
Who has Miyagi been for the last 40 years? Yeah. Because what we're going to learn later is that he was a soldier in World War II, that his wife died in childbirth, and we know that he works as a handyman in this apartment, and that he has this house where he's collected some cars and built gardens and things like that. Does he have any friends?
I don't think so.
He goes out one night, probably to a bar or something.
Yeah.
But like, I think in this moment of deciding whether or not he should get involved, he is kind of opening himself up into the world again in a way that I don't know how much Miyagi has for the last long time.
Yeah.
And finally he says, okay, I'm going to go. And what does Daniel ask him? What kind of belt do you have? I remember this.
JCPenney.
JCPenney, 398.
No, I didn't mean a belt like that. I meant...
Okinawa belt mean no need rope, hold up pants.
Which is a nice subtle dig at the idea of black belt, yellow belt, white belt, all that stuff that Americans are consumed by, because Americans are driven by achievement.
Right.
Whereas the natural order of Japanese karate is not about necessarily achievement in classification or
all those color
levels.
belts, certainly that's all invented here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And whether or not, there are black belts in Japan and some styles have more ranks and stuff than others. But his next line of, points to his heart, karate here, points to his head, karate here, points to his belt, karate never here.
Never here, right.
That's what it is, man. Yeah. And they say goodnight and they bow, and it's the next day. And we get ready to go. He says, good morning. And he hands him the keys to the truck. Yeah. Dale's like, I don't have a license. He says, that's okay. Neither do I. So much fun. There's a little problem with the clutch. We arrive at the dojo. They're practicing some punches. We see Johnny has black eye. Mr. Miyagi and Daniel enter. The sensei takes the student down for not paying attention.
Yeah.
Has to do some 60 push-ups on his knuckles. I had to do 60. I had to do push-ups on my knuckles.
Oh, really?
Dojo, sure. Oh yeah. There was on the floor for 44. I mean, there's a lot of dojo stuff.
In the military, we had to do push-ups on the asphalt, gravel asphalt.
Yeah.
So you could feel the rocks digging into your hands.
Yeah.
And you'd have to do diamond push-ups, and then you'd have to do elevated diamond push-ups, which we would do off a pool table, which are the worst, where you put your feet on the pool table, and then, of course, you're in a angle, and you're, oh, man, those are the worst.
Remember being young?
Yeah. Remember actually, like, enjoying the challenge a little bit? So by the time you get 4 or 5 weeks into basic, you actually relish the challenge of doing the push-ups.
There was a time where when I was living with a friend, we would pull out a deck of cards.
Oh.
Do you ever do the deck of cards?
Oh, what's the deck of cards?
Deck of cards is whatever comes up, that's how many push-ups you're doing. And aces were 15 or something, and kings were 14 or whatever it was. And if you got a 2, it's like, no problem. And there were nights where we would do 5 or 6 decks of cards.
Wow.
And
5 or 6 decks?
And that was just a fun night.
Damn, dude.
There was a lot of push-ups back in my early 20s. I couldn't do couldn't do very many at all now. We see a little sparring, and then the guy makes his point, and then he doesn't finish him, and Sensei yells, "Finish him!"
Yeah.
And here we hear the speech, man.
We do not train to be merciful here. Mercy is for the weak. Here, on the street, in competition, a man confronts you, he is the enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy. What is the problem, Mr. Lawrence?
That is a philosophy.
Yes.
That is making a statement about how you think the world works. Enemies deserve no mercy.
Yep.
It's funny, we did Ben-Hur a little while ago.
Right.
I think there was a certain point where Ben-Hur believed enemies deserve no mercy, and then he learns a different lesson.
Yep.
But we stop right in the middle because Johnny is distracted. What are you staring at, Mr. Lawrence? There's a little bit of whispering. And Daniel starts to get nervous. Let's get going. Sensei Kreese comes up to Miyagi and says, I hear you jump some of my students.
Like a gang. He walks up like a gang leader, and all his students come right behind him to flank him and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no question that we are close to violence right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, Kreese is seeing this as a challenge.
Like a cobra.
Yeah, like a cobra. And Miyagi says, I want you to leave the kid alone.
Like a mongoose. That's always what I thought. That he's a mongoose, because there's a confidence. No other animal is confident around a cobra except a mongoose. And and that's what I think of Miyagi all the time, is that mongoose.
And he has, man, this stand-up comic who was a sick kid, he holds so much power. And he holds it in such a relaxed manner. Like, there isn't any tension in Miyagi at all.
Right.
And Kreese is like, well, this kid should take care of himself.
1-to-1 problem, yes. 5-to-1 problem. Too much ask anyone.
And Kreese is like, oh, well, let's set up a match right now. Look, Johnny, you ready to fight him? And finally, Miyagi comes up with the solution of, no, we'll fight in the tournament, because there's a big poster of the tournament in the background.
Thinking on his feet.
Yeah, very much so. I don't know that Daniel's so happy about this.
Once again, someone else is deciding what's the best thing for Daniel. Some adult is deciding what's best for him without asking his opinion.
Yeah. And the deal that he makes is, you leave the kid alone until the tournament,
right?
So we could go train. And everyone agrees. And
well, Kreese says,
but you don't show.
And it's open season. On him. And you.
I mean, it is ridiculous.
It is. But that's machismo.
I mean, but this goes to the thing of like, we could go back to our conversation about Excalibur, which is that might makes right.
Yeah.
Or is it might for right?
Yeah.
And Kreese is teaching the law of might makes right.
Yeah.
We are the toughest, and therefore we can do what we want.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Outside, Daniel is pissed. I can't believe this. You said you were going to make things better for me. And Miyagi's like, well, I just saved you 2 months of a beating. And Daniel says, well, now I really have something to look forward to. We end up at Miyagi's house. It's a cool design. It's a cool place with all those awesome cars.
Those cars are
foreground.
Incredible, dude.
And Daniel's kind of going, do you really think I could beat that guy? And Miyagi's response is,
no matter. What could teach you attitude, rest in feast? Stupid, but fact of life.
I think that's a really good line. Stupid, but fact of life.
Yeah.
Is that, and this is something I try to teach my kid all the time, which is, because he'll go, oh, well, that wasn't fair. And they're like, yeah, you're right. That was not fair. But that is what life is.
Yeah.
You know, this is how it goes.
Win, lose, no matter. You make good fight and respect. Then nobody bother.
Hell, they'll bury me where I fall.
Either way, problem solved.
Right.
Gives him a headband. They kind of squat down to talk. And Miyagi has this great thing, which is, he says,
walk on the road. Walk right side, safe. Walk left side, safe. Walk middle, sooner or later, get the squish, just like grip. Here, karate, same thing. Either you karate do yes, or karate do no. You karate do guess so, just like grip.
that's a good life lesson.
Yes. For anything.
Yeah, for anything. And he says he understands. And then he says, we're going to have a sacred pack. I'm going to teach. You're going to learn. No questions.
Right.
And they make a deal. And he stands up. He says, first wash all the cars.
Yeah.
Then wax. And Daniel's like, wait a minute. What's this about?
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off. Breathe in through nose, out the mouth. Wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe. Very important. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off.
Hey, where these cars come from?
Wax on. Detroit.
This wax on, wax off, among the great training things of all time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Absolutely. It's later that night. He's still working. Miyagi comes out, corrects his breathing, and leaves again. Late at night, he's finished. Daniel's like, you want to check these out? And he goes, and it goes, finds Miyagi, who's maybe meditating, maybe sleeping.
Maybe sleeping.
And he leaves.
Yeah.
Back at school. Now, Allie does a little shoulder tap thing, and we see Johnny, and Daniel's like, hey, no, we got it all worked out. He goes and talks to them, gives him a little...
I love it.
And it's also like, dude, why are you pushing this?
But this is Daniel, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Daniel's got a gutsiness to him.
And they make a date.
Yeah.
Let's go to golf and stuff.
Golf and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have golf and stuff growing up here? Northern California?
No. I mean, there was miniature golf.
Right.
But there wasn't golf and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't have golf and stuff where I was on the East Coast either.
No.
There was miniature golf. There was no golf and stuff.
No, not like this.
Not like this.
Yeah.
This place apparently is real.
No, I've been there.
Yeah?
It's right down, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What, is it the one over in Sherman Oaks?
No, that's the one that I think this is down it's down the 5 south of downtown.
I'm gonna find that fucking thing.
We'll go.
All right.
We'll have a Cinephile. Jax likes it. He's been.
All right, done and done. We take the Studebaker?
Absolutely. So mom takes Daniel to go pick up Allie. We pull up to a house.
It's a beautiful house, dog.
Is it?
It's a very rich, beautiful house.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean, it's so ostentatious and snooty. It really bugs me.
All right, fair.
That's my stance. And as he goes up to get her, the parents pull up in the rolls.
Oh man,
they are just.
And her, God love Randy Howard. Look, LaRusso's mom, just so unaware of the situation.
Yeah,
because in her mind, humans are humans.
Right.
It's not about the money. It's about being kind and decent to each other. And she's like, hello.
And Allie's fucking parents are immediately nasty and disrespectful to Daniel, look down upon mom and the station wagon, talk about Johnny. Have you seen Johnny? Because in their mind, like, well, she should be dating Johnny.
Right.
They are horrible, horrible people.
And I don't know if you know people like this, but that's true. Like, I've spoken to people who have been in these situations where their parents want them to be with these other guys because it just helps. It's essentially the old English king thing, royalty thing, where you're trying to pair up. It's America's version of an arranged marriage, and it's interesting.
No, this is classist, and they think that they're better than Daniel and his mom.
Right.
And it's funny, I was trying to think of, I thought of something about what their belief system is, and I realized that this sentence can mean two things, which is they think they're better than Daniel because of their wealth.
Yeah.
And what I realized is by saying that, you could mean that I look at my bank account, or they look at their bank account and they know what Daniel's bank account and goes, oh, there's no more money in mine, therefore I'm better than him.
Right.
But that's not what it is. It's that they look at Johnny and their people and go, oh, they're dress better and they speak better and they're more cultured and they know the right wine or the right whatever.
Right.
And they go, oh, these are the better people. And they look at Daniel and his people and they speak in a different way and they have less good stuff and less good clothes. And they go, those people are not as good.
Yeah.
But they don't know that all that is because of wealth.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yep. So they think they're better because of their wealth, but they don't know that's what it is. They just look at these things.
They just sense it.
These external factors, and in fact, they are much worse than Daniel and his mom because Daniel and his mom are good people, and these are horrible people, and I hate them.
Okay, fair. All right, I'm glad we got to that.
And to make matters worse, we go down on the date, and mom and Al is sweet with Allie, and we go to start the car, doesn't start.
Right.
And now we gotta go.
Gotta pop the clutch,
and she just puts Allie in that driver's seat and says, "We're gonna push," and it's I've pushed a car to pop the clutch.
Sure, of course.
I don't think it happens as much anymore.
Of course not.
There was a time. There was one buddy of mine who we always had to push that car to start. That was just normal. And we drive off and we head to golf and stuff.
Yep.
We got a nice little 80s golf and stuff montage, hockey, bumper boats, like a bouncy house, a photo booth. We're holding hands.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of nice. The date is going really well. Dude pulls up in a Corvette.
Yeah.
And this is where now the class structure has really jumped in it. And now Daniel is feeling it after meeting the parents with the Rolls Royce and the fancy house with the pillars. And now there's this dude with the Corvette and now Johnny shows up and he even invites Daniel to come along on whatever thing they're going to do.
Yeah.
Not cool. Daniel does not want to do this. And mom shows up and and they start to mock, oh, can Daniel come for a ride? Mom knows what's going on now. Now mom is hip to it. She wasn't before, but now she is. And he's he doesn't handle this well.
Nope.
Because Allie is awesome.
Yeah.
And he is going, maybe you want to go with them.
You know, you could have gone.
Well, I didn't want to, okay?
Like it's no big deal.
Look, if I really wanted to go, I would have.
It makes no difference to me. Do what you want to do. I don't care.
Yeah. It's his insecurities.
Absolutely. No question about it. And we don't end this date on a very good note.
No.
We're back at Mr. Miyagi. He walks into the gardens. Oh, wow, this is beautiful. And he sees these weird things that he's got. What are these, Japanese bongos? He starts making noise. It's like, no, they're sanders. What do you want me to do with it? What do you do with them? And he goes, funny you should ask.
I love it. Funny you should ask.
You should right circle, left circle. Now he's sanding the floor.
Sand the floor.
Sand the floor. Breathe in, breathe out. Right circle, left circle. What a great, it's just, who doesn't want to find this master?
Right.
He's the guy.
Right.
And you know what? Daniel doesn't really complain that much.
Not yet.
You could see him not being so happy. He was like, okay. And he starts sanding the floor. And then it's late at night. This is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Have you sanded some floors?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, not floors, but I used to work with my dad in the summers because he was a house painter. So I would sand like all the caulking and all the stuff you'd have to do. It is a lot of work. And you have to get it level. Yep. You have to get it right so that there's no bumps, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And it's late at night and he's finished. You could see his shoulders starting to hurt.
Yeah.
And he wants some praise.
He's too young to be having rotator cuff issues.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, he's 23.
Yeah, well, true, fair.
And he says, go home, get some rest, come back early tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's the next morning. Mr. Miyagi's still trying to catch flies with chopsticks, and Daniel's like, well, wouldn't a fly swatter be easier? And Miyagi says,
man who catch fly with chopstick accomplish anything.
You ever catch one?
Not yet.
And then Daniel goes to try. What does he do?
He catches one.
What an asshole.
It's a great moment.
And I love Miyagi's beginner luck.
Yeah, right. But I think also Daniel needs this moment, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole time he's been there doing menial labor, but he needs to feel this like moment of possibility.
Right.
Right? In all this.
And now he's kind of high on it. He's like, hey, I can accomplish anything.
Yes.
He's like, good, now accomplish paint defense.
Paint defense.
Up,
down.
Down. Up, down. And you're like, oh. And what's really funny about this, even if you haven't seen the movie, and you still kind of know what's going on because you know what kind of movie you're watching. So this can't be that some asshole is making this kid do all this free labor.
Right.
We know that. And yet you're like, man, this is crazy what he has him do. And now it's late at night and you could tell he's really getting frustrated, but he's just about done. And he says, it's all finished pretty good. And Miyagi goes, both sides? It's nighttime. Daniel is still going. Miyagi comes out wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Like, I think this is where maybe he's going out to the bar or something. And he just goes, keep going and come back tomorrow early. It's the next morning and Daniel-san arrives and he sees paint cans in front of the house and a note. And it says, paint the house. No up, down. Paint side to side. Left hand, right hand. Dan's pissed at this moment.
Yeah, he is.
And honestly, of course he is. I mean, the guy, this is a lot of labor. I mean, washing and waxing cars is one thing, but sanding a whole floor, painting a whole fence, and now you got to paint a whole house? Man. It's nighttime. The house is painted. Miyagi comes in and says, missed a spot. Oh, and the thing is, he wants Daniel angry.
Yeah.
He is pushing him to get him angry.
I'm being your goddamn slave is what I'm being, man. Now, we made a deal here.
So?
So you're supposed to teach and I'm supposed to learn, remember? For 4 days, I've been busting my ass. I haven't learned a goddamn thing.
You learned plenty.
I learned plenty. I learned how to sand your decks, maybe. I wax your car, paint your house, paint your fence. I learned plenty, right?
Not everything is as seems.
Oh, bullshit. I'm going home, man.
And then he stops him.
Daniel-san! Daniel-san!
Yeah, real firm.
Yeah, and there's that power there. And Miyagi says, show me sand the floor. And he says, I can't even move my shoulder. And Miyagi claps his hands and rubs them together. And Daniel's like, what are you doing? And he reaches out and touches them. It's obvious it hurts at first.
Right.
And somehow, man, he's got the healing touch.
Yeah. It's got some Japanese magic in those hands.
And he says, show me sand the floor. And Daniel starts to go down on his knees. He's like, nah, sand the floor. And this moment that we're getting to,
yeah, man.
I think this is one of the great moments in martial arts movies of all time.
Agreed.
Now show me wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Hey, wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Concentrate. Look at my eye. Lock a hand. Thumb inside. Wax on, hot. Wax off, hot.
And then he throws a punch.
That!
And Daniel just instinctively blocks it. Yeah.
I love the sounds he's making when he's throwing the punches.
And then he says, do the other one. Show me paint the fence.
Yeah.
And then he throws another punch. And then all of a sudden, he just attacks him. Just this wild, like, flurry of punches and kicks. And Daniel blocks them all.
And he's increasingly more surprised as he starts blocking them. You can see Macchio does a great job here with his eyes. It is that combination of instinct and surprise that is there in his eyes, which is really subtle, great acting stuff.
Well, and the intensity of Pat Morita.
Yes.
Eyes. Always look eye.
Always look eye.
You know, which, by the way, I don't think is good advice.
What? Really?
Oh, yeah. Definitely not.
Okay.
Eyes lie.
Okay.
You like, but there's. I would say what you want is sort of have your eyes be diffuse.
Oh yeah.
You don't want them. You don't want to get too locked into someone's eyes,
right?
Because people do things. They'll eye flick, and that'll distract you, and then they'll do something else.
Oh,
you know. So like a little more, but that doesn't matter because Miyagi is awesome.
Yeah.
Eyes always look eyes. And after this, they bow, and Daniel starts to look down. And he's like, no, look eyes, and then he says, "Come back tomorrow." And this great reaction from Daniel of just, I just experienced some stuff.
Right.
Like that. It's a miracle. It's a miracle of a moment, I think, for him.
Agreed.
You know?
And we have these moments as we grow up as men or people, rather. You have those moments where someone's trying to teach you something and they go roundabout a way of teaching you, and then you realize what they were trying to teach you. And you're like, oh, man. Incredible.
What's funny is my experience having taught martial arts is that you always want to create this moment, but in fact, really the moment's going to happen for them when it's going to happen.
Right. It's organic.
You can't go like, I'm going to do this and this and this.
Right.
And they're going to have an epiphany.
You can't
fabricate it. Sometimes that happens, but mostly it's like, you know, it's really what really tends to feel like as a student is someone has been saying a thing over and over and over again. And then one day you hear it.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God. And it's like, yeah, that's what I've been telling you. You know?
It clicks.
We're out at the beach.
Like Timothy Busfield in Field of Dreams. When did that baseball field get here?
We'll get here. We'll be doing that. We got to do that at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we're out on the beach and we're out practicing some waves to get some balance. Yeah. And balance is a word that comes up a lot.
And this is where the Zamfir really kicks in.
Yeah.
Great scores. Great score here.
And he sees Mr. Miyagi practicing the crane technique on a stump. And he says, well, what is that? And he says, oh, crane technique. Does it work? When do right, no can defense. That's not true. I mean, can you imagine some dude actually doing the crane, like standing there in front of you? It's like, I know what you're about to do.
I've seen the movie.
I've seen the movie.
I know what you're gonna do.
But
By
that's
the way,
okay.
Is that Morita or is that that's
the double?
That's the double from far away.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it does.
And of course Daniel wants to learn it, and he says,
First learn stand, then learn fly. Yeah. Nature ruled on your son, not mine.
I literally just used that on my kid. You know, that's true. There are nature's rules. It's like, I'm not making these rules.
Yeah.
You can't do this yet. You have to do this later. And he's asking where he learned it from, and father.
Yeah.
Must have been some father. And now there's some drunks at a truck.
Oh yeah. By the way, you know who this is?
Who is it? I was
Larry Drake.
That's who it is. He's so familiar.
Who is, if you've seen Darkman, he's the criminal in Darkman.
Yeah.
Evil guy. He's a villain in One of the villains in Darkman. And if you saw L.A. Law from those days, he played the mentally handicapped guy who worked at the offices in L.A. Law.
Yeah. And these guys are drunk and racist, and they say kids got a pet nip.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to say, no, he's got a hip nip because that is in fact who this guy is. And
he calls him Mr. Moto, which is a 1940s reference,
yep.
right?
And what does Mr. Miyagi do? He knocks the top off a beer bottle.
So amazing.
Which, by the way, I've seen.
Oh, really?
So there is a documentary, because I used to watch every martial arts thing I could find.
Sure.
It's like late 70s, early 80s, and it's called Budo, the Japanese Art of Killing. And it is like a beautifully filmed kind of artistic, late 70s documentary, slow paced. And they go through a whole bunch of different Japanese martial arts, judo and jiu-jitsu. And it's probably one of the first times I'd ever really seen Aikido is in this documentary. Yeah. And there's a dude, and he's got 2 beer bottles on a bridge. And they're open but filled, and he hits the first one, knocks the neck off of it, it falls over, hits the second one, knocks the neck off of it, it just stays standing.
Wow.
And I literally have no concept of how that could be possible.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But I don't think it's fake.
Right.
I think in this movie it's fake.
Well, of course.
I don't think Pat Morita did this, but I have seen it a real thing.
I love the effect.
Yeah. And they back off.
Yeah, they grab the bottles and take off.
And I love, how'd you do that? Don't know. First time.
First time.
There's some more soccer. Elizabeth Shue's actually pretty good at now playing soccer. And she says, I have to go to the club. They're trying to set up a date. Why don't you pick me up at the club after?
Right.
We're out on a lake on a rowboat, some more training stuff. And he's saying, stand and bow, to which Daniel bows. He's like, no, bow, front of the boat. And now again, we're talking about balance. And Daniel wants to learn how to punch.
Better learn balance. Balance is key. Balance good, karate good, everything good. Balance bad, better pack up, go home. Understand?
And he's kind of asking, did you ever get in fights when he was a kid? And Miyagi goes, yes. And he goes, yeah, well, you didn't have problems like the problems I have. And he said, fighting is fighting. Same. And Daniel's kind of, again, going, yeah, but you know karate. And he says, well, someone always knows more. And again, the wisdom from Mr. Miyagi.
Yep.
And Daniel's kind of going, well, then why train? If you don't want to fight, why train? And then he answers his own questions. So you don't have to fight.
Yeah.
Miyagi have a hope for you.
This is the philosophy. He's still going, but when do I get to learn how to punch? And Miyagi goes, when you learn how to stay dry, and he knocks him off the boat. And I love Pat Morita's just laughing at him. His cackling is just great.
Oh, Daniel's on.
Yeah. Let's go to a country club.
Yeah.
And see a bunch of snooty fucks.
Sure. Jesus, sure.
Sorry. The parents are just so awful.
The parents are awful, yeah.
Yeah, and that Johnny is there, and they push him to dance with her. Like, didn't she tell them that they broke up?
Right. She did.
And they're just like going, nope, here's Johnny.
Right, because they know better for their daughter than she does.
And at the same time, Daniel is showing up wearing apparently all white.
Yeah.
Really essentially dressed like the valet.
And the red jacket.
The red jacket and the white outfit. Decides to sneak in through the kitchen. Allie is not pleased with Johnny dancing with her, trying to get away. And then Johnny sees Daniel through the window of the doors in the kitchen and decides to lay a big kiss on Allie.
Right.
Daniel turns to go, runs into somebody. We hear a big crash. The doors open, and there we see Daniel covered in tomato sauce and spaghetti. And he's humiliated, and he runs away and doesn't get to see Allie punch Johnny and be pissed at him.
Right.
So this is a classic misunderstanding setup.
Sure.
And Johnny is a terrible person.
Right.
And what's the other interesting and why, again, I hate the parents, is they go to comfort Johnny.
Yeah, of course.
After their daughter has pushed him away and gotten mad at him.
Yep.
No, those parents are irredeemable. We go back to Miyagi's. That's where he goes when he's sad and in trouble.
Of course, he needs a father figure.
Yeah.
The dad.
And Miyagi's drunk.
He's singing.
He's singing.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 glasses, and he's looking at a picture.
Yeah.
And Daniel rides up on his bike and then offers Daniel the drink. And there's a great moment where he says, bonsai. And Daniel goes, to little trees.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't mean bonsai.
Right.
He means bonsai. And they cheer, they do it. And Daniel does the great sort of, I just drank whiskey for the first time.
Right.
ask about this girl in the picture, and Miyagi says he's celebrating his anniversary.
I didn't know you were married.
Damn beautiful, don't you think?
Yeah, she's pretty.
Oh, first time I saw her was Kingfield, Hawaii. Beautiful.
And again, Pat Morita's great here.
Ah, man.
Daniel asks where she's now, and Miyagi doesn't answer. He pours more booze. He's singing. And by the way, what I should have said at the beginning is he's wearing his army uniform.
Yep.
And then he starts kind of talking in this voice of someone talking to him and says, Sergeant Miyagi.
Sergeant Miyagi? Yes, sir. Sergeant Miyagi report to kill many Germans, sir. Hey, Sergeant Miyagi. Yes, sir. Regret to inform wife, son, complication of birth, sir. Complication, but no doctor come. Under free, almost free. No doctor.
And you don't even quite hear exact because it's very slurred.
Yeah.
And you don't quite understand what he's saying. And then he's kind of yelling about the land of the free and the home of the brave. I mean, he's out there right now.
Yeah, he is.
He's pretty gone.
Well, he's in pain.
And he goes to bed, and Daniel's sitting there and sees these newspapers about the internment at Manzanar. And of course, Pat Morita was interred at this time. And he is looking through things, and he goes to cover Miyagi up and sees that Miyagi is clutching a paper in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes and he pulls the paper out of this man's hand and sees that Miyagi's wife died in complications from childbirth, and so did the child.
Yeah.
And then he goes and sits down and sees some medals, including the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
That Mr. Miyagi was a hero, a war hero.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was out fighting for his country, his wife was interred by that same country and died because they couldn't get a doctor in time.
Right.
And that his wife and child died because of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a profound moment.
It's a profound moment of connection for Daniel, too. Like, this is the teacher. When you connect with the teacher is when you can find that vulnerable moment with the teacher and learn about him. You know, they're both sensitive souls, both Miyagi and LaRusso. LaRusso's grumpiness or frustration or anger comes from a place of trying to cover up his sensitivity, and that's why he jokes all the time and does all the stuff that he does, but he's an incredibly insecure guy. And then you have Miyagi who's been dealing with the loss of his only, probably never got with anyone else afterwards, probably feels guilty that he wasn't there to help her and to get a doctor for her and to save her child. All of that, their child rather, he probably carries that guilt with him every day.
Well, and that's why I say, like, well, who was Miyagi?
That's the thing. He was a war hero. He did all these things, but I guarantee you, he went through probably a severe depression afterwards, and then being a handy. This is all he feels he deserves.
Well,
no aspirational.
Well, it might be all that he could get.
Sure.
You know, we're in a racist society. I mean, how was he? Was he welcome back after the war?
But 1984.
Right, but in 1946.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But he's still a handyman at a complex.
Yeah.
Why is that? There's a guilt.
Well, and a deep emptiness.
Yes,
a loneliness, and here's this guy who has all this to give.
Yeah,
all this tremendous wisdom and skills, and he was waiting for a student, and then the students come along, and the moment ends. It's so beautiful. After he's put Miyagi to bed, and he's seen the Congressional Medal of Honor and all these things, Daniel starts to leave, and then turns and bows. Yeah. That's a touching, beautiful.
Very much so.
Yeah. So there's more training. Daniel's trying to practice that crane technique on the stump. We're more balanced on the boat. He's looking pretty good. Now we're learning to punch. We got Miyagi in the catcher's mask and the chest pad and all this stuff. By the way, if someone can punch hard, that catcher pad is not going to help you.
No.
That'll really hurt. But it still looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a moment, by the way, where he doesn't punch very hard, and Miyagi says, "What's the matter? You some kind of girl or something?"
Oh, yeah.
That would not be said today. Daniel starts to get a little cocky. He starts throwing some punches, moving around, doing a little Bruce Lee stuff. And Miyagi's going, stop, trying to get him to stop. And finally, he takes him down. And this is the first time Miyagi gets a little pissed with him.
Yeah.
I tell you how to Miyagi think. I think you dance around too much. I think you talk too much. I think you not concentrate enough. Lots of work to be done. Tournament just around the corner. Come, stand up. Now, ready. Concentrate. Focus power. Yosh.
And they go back to punching, and now Daniel's focused. And this is the thing. And again, we go to that Rocky connection.
Yeah.
Daniel's got guts. He's tough. He is willing to put in the hours. He's got character.
Character. Yes.
Yeah. It's his birthday.
Yeah.
Daniel's birthday. Miyagi sings. He's got a cape. And by the way, at this point in the movie, you're starting to wonder, what happened to Mom?
Well,
she's apparently not just...
She's cool with him doing what he's doing.
Sure, but Daniel's not worried about that right now. What he's worried about is the tournament.
So, you think I stand a chance at the tournament?
Not matter what Miyagi thinks. Miyagi not fighting.
I just don't know if I knew enough karate,
Feeling correct.
Oh, you sure know how to make a guy feel confident.
Daniel said, you trust quality, what you know, not quantity.
It's another good line.
Yep.
Daniel says, he's got his driver's license. And as he opens up his wallet, he sees the picture of the girl and thinks, oh, you look good together. And then he says, I have something to show you. Let's go outside for present number 2. We go outside. And Daniel's like, you don't have to give me anything. And Miyagi says, choose.
Mm-hmm.
Man, can you imagine? Like you're 16, you've been training with this weird handyman guy, and he has 6 beautiful classic cars, and he says, choose.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Daniel, of course, chooses the right one.
Yes.
That beautiful yellow convertible, which Ralph Macchio still has.
Oh, wow.
He kept that car.
I would have too.
Isn't that awesome?
No matter what, I would have kept that car.
And one of the things I think is really interesting, he chooses the yellow one. Well, the keys are already in it, and the dog tags are on the keys.
Yeah.
That is, in a weird way, that's more of a gift than the car.
Sure.
Because those are important.
Yep.
And there's this thing, I think I brought this up a long time ago in one of our podcasts. I don't remember which one, which is this line in this book about martial arts called It's a Lot Like Dancing, which is an amazing book that's more philosophical, and it's a lot of photographs, and it's about a guy who did Aikido. And sometimes there'll be a whole paragraph or a full page of text, and sometimes there's just like a line. And one of the things it says is you can have a father and you can have a mentor, but don't expect your mentor to love you like a father, and don't expect your father to know you like a mentor. They are different. And I don't think I quoted it exactly right, but this Miyagi's kind of becoming both.
Yeah.
He loves him. He knows him. He understands him. And it's just a remarkable relationship that's happened. And Daniel kind of says in this moment, I'm scared about the tournament and everything. And his response is,
you remember lesson about balance?
Yeah.
A lesson not just karate only. Lesson for whole life. Whole life have a balance. Everything be better.
And he shows him that picture with the girl, and he says, go find balance.
Yep.
And Daniel leaves, and the love on Pat Morita's face is just really remarkable.
I love the Daniel-san. Bonsai, Daniel-san, bonsai. Yeah. I love that connected moment. Like the father watching his son drive off for the first time to go to the prom or something. Yeah.
Yeah. We're back to golf and stuff. He sees Allie. He kind of wants to talk to her, and she's pissed at this point.
Hey, I just wanted to apologize.
Fine, you apologize.
You know I got my license.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Hey, what's with you?
Am I expecting you to do cartwheels or something?
But then he doesn't get why she's upset, and then her friends have to tell him.
Right.
Oh, that's right. You didn't stick around to see her Allie punch Johnny for blah, blah, blah. And that's when he really understands why she's mad at him. And then goes and she's like standing there against the water or whatever, against the poles of the fence. And then he walks up behind her and has this really sweet moment where he apologizes to her. And you can tell the affection between them is really, it's really nice. There's romance that they have, and it's very innocent. And and real and pure, and it's sweet to watch in the film.
And he shows enough character to realize to apologize,
Yep.
to do it the right way.
Yep.
And they make up, and it's time to go to the tournament.
Yeah, man.
And we go in, and they ask what belt he is, and Miyagi's like, "Why does it matter?" And then he's like, "Oh, he's a black belt." And
He takes that belt off.
there's that great moment where he does a little distraction.
Yeah.
And he swipes the belt, black belt, and hands it off to Allie.
Yeah.
We're in the locker room. And it's funny, Daniel doesn't even know how to put the gi on.
No.
Like, I would have, tried it on, just to be sure. In come, our Cobra Kai bullies.
But we should say the gi has the symbol.
Yes, it has
which he had seen in the stuff that Miyagi had while he was drunk that night.
Yeah,
the two bonsai trees.
We're out in the arena. Ali's helping him put his belt on, and it's a really nice shot as we enter into this space. And they look around; they've never seen anything like this before. They don't want Ali to come on the mats and go, "Oh, well, it's his translator."
What'd he say?
Oh, he says you remind him of an uncle he has back in Tokyo.
I guess it's okay. What?
Oh, he says you're very kind.
Wow. Thank you. Welcome.
Which is a nice little bit.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's sort of like the joking between Mickey and Rocky as we head into the ring.
Yep.
There's a lot of connections there. And they don't even know the rules.
No.
And Miyagi's like, first time you, first time me. But fortunately, Ali knows the rules, and they tell him how to do it. We get to our first match, and the first several times they start, Daniel just backs out of the square.
Because I imagine he hasn't been sparring with anyone other than Miyagi, so he's not seen different styles of karate.
But then he kind of gets it together, and he makes a pretty good fight. Has a roundhouse to the body, and then we go into our montage.
Yeah.
You're the best around.
Great song. Great 80s workout song.
It is an 80s montage song.
Yep.
And we see the Cobra Kai guys being sort of out of control. We see Sensei Kreese looking very smug.
Yeah.
We see Johnny doing pretty well. We see Daniel, he takes out one of the Cobra Kai guys.
Yep.
And then we see that one guy who is really good.
Yeah.
Takes out a Cobra Kai guy.
Flipping around everywhere.
Daniel takes a couple of shots, but then he wins again. And now we see Sensei Kreese is starting to look a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
We see there's a big board, and Daniel's name is moving up on the board. It's a good tournament fight montage. But Daniel's taking a couple of shots, and now he's getting his ribs taped up.
Yeah.
And now we've kind of moved into the semifinals. And we have Johnny, who is apparently the defending champ.
Yeah.
And he is facing now that one really good martial artist. And there's some beautiful jumping, spinning kicks. And you know what? William Zabka, he looks pretty good.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he should win.
Right.
But he does win. And now it's time for Daniel to fight Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown.
Yeah. And Sensei Kreese says, I want him out of commission.
Yeah.
And he's going like, well, I can beat him.
This is Bobby. He's like, I can beat him.
And it's like, I don't want him beat him. But, and this is the thing. Bobby's like, well, I'm going to be disqualified.
Yeah.
And you see this sort of, you have to do what Sensei wants.
Right.
I mean, Sensei wants this kid broken.
Yeah.
And so he does a jump kick to the leg, which actually doesn't look that painful to me, but Daniel goes down.
Yeah.
And it's obviously against the rules. And Bobby runs in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He didn't
Immediately
want to
apologizes.
do it.
Yeah.
So he's disqualified.
Right.
And we get 15 minutes. So there's looks from Johnny and the rest of the Cobra Kai to their sensei. And this is this what we wanted?
Right.
You know?
Right.
We're in the locker room, and Daniel's in a lot of pain, and they've sort of gone, well, we're going to inform the judges that you can't continue.
His mom's in there.
Yeah.
Allie's in there.
And she's like, no, it's great. You did really great.
Yeah.
You should be proud. And he's like, go away. I want to be alone, Mr. Miyagi. And then...
No, Mr. Miyagi? You think I had a chance of winning?
To win, lose, no matter.
No, it's not what I mean.
I had good chance.
Well, can you fix my leg? I mean, with that thing you do?
What for? You already proved point.
And he's like, no, I've only thing I proved is that I can take a beating.
This is a great back and forth, by the way. Yeah.
I mean, every time I see those guys, they're gonna know they got the best of me. I'll never have balance that way. Not with them, not with Allie.
Not with me.
And Miyagi says,
Close your eye.
and then you have that great Bill Conti downbeat as Miyagi claps his hands together and rubs them. Cut to, it's the trophy presentation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the moment we've been waiting for.
We're about to give Johnny the championship trophy, and then out comes Daniel LaRusso, and he's going to fight.
Well, first, it's Ali coming out, running out to tell him.
You're right. You're
Tell
right.
the guy that's a classic 1980s guy still stuck in the 70s with that wide open collar shirt, but he says, Daniel LaRusso's going to fight. He says it into the mic, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then everyone gets all excited. And then Daniel comes out with Miyagi.
Yeah, limping a bit.
Limping.
And it's time to start the match.
Yeah.
And by the way, the ref in this match is the fight choreographer.
Oh,
there
you go. I like how they missay Miyagi. He says Miyagi-Do or something like that. Miyagi-Do. Miyagi-Do, yeah.
It's a pretty good fight scene.
I would say so.
I think it's the best one in the movie.
Certainly goes back and forth.
There's some back and forth. Johnny does some good defense. He gets in a body blow. Johnny gets taken down, but gets up, scores. Then there's another takedown, then a back fist. Johnny's starting to bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's bleeding, he has to go off to his sensei. And sensei, in this sort of intense face grab moment, says,
Sweep the leg.
And Zappa can't believe it.
You have a problem with that? No, Sensei?
and then we get to
No mercy.
Here's what's weird about this, and this is that there is a leg sweep in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that he really does that's horrible is drives an elbow down on the leg. That's not a leg sweep.
Right.
So it's sort of weird that the thing that Sensei said to do was not actually the really destructive thing.
Right.
It was this elbow, which does look really brutal.
Yeah.
And, we're all tied up 2-2. And he drives his elbow into his leg, and Daniel goes down, and our Cobra Kai goes,
Get him a body bag!
yeah, get him a body bag.
Yep, that guy.
Which I sort of put with like game over, man.
Yeah, that guy almost steals the movie. Just screams at the front of it.
And Daniel gets to his feet and goes into the crane technique position.
Yeah.
And
the score hits. It's so perfect.
And the score is building. And there's a great little nod from Miyagi. And Johnny comes in leading apparently with his face. And takes that a great shot right to the face.
Yeah.
Right in the music. I'm totally crying at this moment.
Oh, yeah. It's a great moment.
Yeah.
Zapka does the hesitation move. That's the thing. Because he doesn't know how to attack it.
Yep.
And it sells the move because he doesn't know how to attack it. The hesitation is what gives Daniel the window to do the crane kick.
And it's and everybody celebrates. And this is like, yo, Adrian. You know what I mean? Like it is very similar. Johnny gives him the trophy and says, "You're all right, LaRusso." Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, totally don't believe that. I don't believe that by that change in Johnny's character at this
You didn't
moment.
see it build when he asked him to sweep the leg and ask him all this kind of stuff, and when they had Bobby do the.
I just don't think there's enough there.
Okay.
I mean, it's fine. I love the movie, so it's fine.
It's like the Top Gun moment. When Iceman comes out, you could be my wingman anytime. It's like, could you buy that moment? Like, it's that kind of thing.
Man, I haven't seen Top Gun in forever.
What?
Yeah, it's been.
Fuck, you just say?
I haven't seen it in forever.
We're gonna make that a Cine-Files episode.
Let's do it soon.
Damn sure.
Let's do it. I haven't done it. I haven't seen it in at least 10 years.
I watch that every 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
That movie is my obsession, son.
Well, let's definitely do it.
I could just do the whole movie for you now. but
it's too. We've been here too long.
You're right. So he hands the trophy, which is a large trophy, by the way, and gives it to him and says he's all right. But Macchio does a great job here. It's just like the whole pain and like being overwhelmed by everybody grabbing him, looking all around, and just goes
little eye contact with Miyagi.
Yeah.
Go to a freeze frame, just like the end of Rocky.
Which is great.
And we've reached the end of The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Pat Morita was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Really good. Oscar, yeah.
Yeah.
And a Golden Globe.
And of course, the movie goes on to have Karate Kid 2 sequel, which is a good movie.
It's a good sequel.
I don't think it's a cinephile necessarily.
No.
But I like it. Karate Kid 3, which is not good.
No, Jesus Christ.
The next Karate Kid, which no one should really ever talk of, although it introduces us to Hilary Swank.
Sure.
And then the Karate Kid with, I mean, I love Jackie Chan, but there's some real problems. And apparently, I think they're making another. They're maybe made a sequel to that.
God, help us all.
Because I saw something on YouTube, and that brings us to Cobra Kai, which should be premiering right about when we put this show out.
And what's great about this seems to be the premise is that Johnny now seems to be the good guy.
I know. I can't wait to see how that all works out.
I think is incredible. And
Because Ralph Macchio, Daniel looks kind of like a dick.
Yeah, he's running this car dealership.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he gets mad that Cobra Kai is going to come back. He's like, oh no, I'm not letting this happen again.
Yeah.
And he goes into training. And apparently Johnny has his students, and the students are actually nice kids. And so this is a nice little twist to make. And I think this plays off what happened a couple of years ago. I can't remember this website or this site did a very funny tongue-in-cheek video of how Daniel was the actual
the bad guy.
Was the bad guy in Karate Kid,
it.
which I think is brilliant. But they probably played off that and created this whole series out of it, which I think it looks very, very funny and interesting.
We'll see. I think I said in the preview, I'm either going to love it or I'm going to hate it. And I
love the slogan is "We're kicking the competition in the face."
Yeah,
that is just fucking brilliant, man.
Do you have final thoughts?
Yeah, here's what I would say. Karate Kid is a very special movie to me. It holds a very special place in my heart because of the relationship between Daniel and Miyagi. I mean, that's a really thing, that's what you want growing up. You want that kind of father or father figure in your life to guide you, be stern, but also understanding, but also have their vulnerabilities. You can connect to them and see them as human and have them guide you to a place where you can find your strength, your voice, and what Daniel says later, your balance. And that's what you get through the whole movie. Plus, you get these very sweet moments on the water, by the beach. You get these moments on the boat, this great visual stuff that John Avildsen does with his cameras. This really works so effectively to convey the mood of the movie. And it is a sports movie, so you cheer for this kid. And although this kid is always biting off more than he can chew, you never 100% feel like he's going to be unable to do it. And that's what you love about Macchio's performance, is there's a gutsiness to it, there's a playfulness to it, and there's a smirk to it that lets you connect with him and root for him through the whole movie, so that when he gets his vengeance, it's earned, and also that Johnny hands him the trophy kind of wraps this all up in a nice bow, in that these are high school kids. These aren't like adults.
Right. Yeah.
So he can make that change. And they want to have a good ending that wraps everything up and goes, you know what? The kid learned from being beat. And ironically, he learned from the might of Daniel LaRusso that this kid was his equal, if not his better. And so he earned his respect and changed the course of both their lives, which we'll find out in Cobra Kai. So there we go.
For me, I'm having trouble trying to think of how to put it into words what I want to say, which is that this is so unique as a martial arts film because in a weird way, it's not about the martial arts in the physical sense. Mm-hmm. Is that in terms of actual martial arts, punches and kicks and blocks and techniques, this is really weak. This is like after school special level of martial arts. But in terms of understanding some essential part of what martial arts mean as a spiritual or a philosophical journey, and what the teacher-student relationship is, it is the most on-the-money, accurate movie I can think of. Like Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon is more, the martial arts are, off the charts better than what we see in The Karate Kid. Right. But the relationship between Mr. Miyagi and his student is so profound in terms of the idea of the mentor. Yeah. And that's what this movie ends up being about, is that what's so amazing is that these are two people that manage to heal each other through the mechanism of martial arts and the teacher-student relationship and becoming a father and a son. Yeah. And that what's going to be weird when Cobra Kai happens is that in my view of Karate Kid, the moment of kicking Johnny in the face and winning the tournament is not the most important moment in Daniel LaRusso's life. Meeting Mr. Miyagi and learning balance and this going on this journey, that the journey is what's important, not the tournament. And I think at Cobra Kai is going to be the best moment of my life was when I kicked that guy in the face. Yeah. And that's why it's going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be able to accept it, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it because it'll be fun.
Me too.
So that's what we think about The Karate Kid. Of course, we always want to hear what you think. If you want to share your opinion with us, come visit us on our Facebook page. Just do a search for the Cine-Files, Cine-Files. You can go to our website where you can buy every movie we've ever done and listen to every review we've ever done. And that's at cinefiles.net. you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/the Cine-Files. We've been doing a lot of movies that people have from our Patreon picks lately. It's been a lot of fun. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube and Stitcher and Spotify and TuneIn and a whole bunch of other places. Please leave us a review on iTunes. If you haven't done it yet, it makes a big difference for the show. It really helps other people find us. And as always, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at SR Morris. John, where can they find you?
You can always find me at The Rocha Says, ROCHA, on Twitter and on Instagram. See all the stuff I'm doing there, all the stuff at Collider, etc., etc.
And I think that's it for this week. We will see you next time on The Cine-Files.